Is it why I'm betting against AI in concept art? I think I saw this thumbnail already, because I'm also watching like quite a lot of animation and some AI related stuff, of course.
Just as a disclaimer before we start, I am a professional artist and as such I am very biased. My livelihood depends on the continued existence of a healthy income via artwork, specifically in entertainment media. I love working in films and games and I don't want that to disappear. I've spent the last 5 years working in this industry, mainly producing concept art for shows like The Creator, Masters of the Universe, How to Train Your Dragon 2, 3 Body Problems Season 2, and many, many more. Tied to the art community, I've run multiple public events, community spaces, and I've taught many classes in the hopes of helping the next generation of artists enter this industry. This video is for all artists, but it's mainly focused towards concept art. This is my field of
I think it's funny how he enabling all of these different layers. This is a presentation in Photoshop.
expertise and the community that I work within. If you work in another field and something in this video feels like it does not apply to you, it might be because I'm an idiot, but it might also be because the line of conversation is specific to my field.
Maybe because I'm an idiot then, but we will see.
My personal stance. So I do not think that AI should be used in the art world. However, I can recognize the difference between what people sometimes have to do and what people choose to do. AI is already being used in a minority of workplaces, and while right now I have the security to turn down jobs that clash with my personal morals, I know that not everybody can. People need to be able to put food on the table.
It's kind of difficult because I also saw a lot of senior animators who lost their jobs because of all of these recent layoffs, because a lot of film companies are struggling quite a lot right now. Probably almost every day, at least every week, I see on LinkedIn some senior animators with work experience for 15 years who are struggling right now.
At work, if possible, AI tools should be resisted, but I can acknowledge some artists may be forced to use them. I think an appeal should always be made to leadership for more artistic processes, but obviously this will not always work. To reiterate, if you are made to use AI at work, then this video is not intended to attack you. It is intended to be both a resource and a video of encouragement for everyone who would prefer not to be forced to use these programs. I do not think AI art has any place in personal art or in portfolios. In short, I think this muddies the water and makes it hard to discern real skills from AI-generated outcomes. This is especially problematic when the usage is not labeled and it's misrepresented in an attempt to avoid backlash.
That's why I also consider to label this project I'm working on, this one. Before the video, I probably will put a tag on it that no AI is involved and no AI is used, because it's such an important field right now, and I want to be super transparent that this is all handmade.
I do think that all artists hold some level of responsibility in helping push back against AI, but I think this very much depends on their means and their place in the industry. The higher you are, the more that you should be doing. Let's also define the type of AI that I will be talking about in this video today, because AI can refer to a very wide variety of things. So let's narrow it down. In this video, I'm referring to tools that use modern LLMs to generate novel imagery or text. For example, tools like Midjourney, ChatGPT, Trupo AI, Comfy AI, and AI-enhanced tools that have been added to a lot of programs. I'm less concerned with legacy tools like Content Aware and Photoshop, but obviously many of these tools have had AI added to them in recent years, whilst the original version is often still accessible. My focus is on tools that are touted as being capable of replacing sections of the creative industry. So what is the point of this video? Well, I previously wrote an article titled Arguments Against AI, which will be linked in the description, which outlined a series of responses to common arguments for the usage of AI in the art industry. This video is not that. This video is meant to be an outline of my views on using AI in the industry and the long-term ramifications that I believe this will have on both individual artists and the wider community. This video is not meant to be advice or an attack on any individual, nor is it meant to be a prediction of how AI changes the job market over the next 20 years. It is my explanation of why I am betting against AI and continuing to work as a professional concept artist, even amongst the industry's instability.
He also talked about the instability right now because it's so hard right now. I also think that at the end we always need human work.
So here's our page of contents for this video. And let's get started with our first point, the Ouroboros.
Crappy sales pitch for Ouroboros, the last race, endless speed, endless realism. Me, you, and the art I see online, the bet I'm making, how I'm playing my cards. Pretty interesting is like the last part, and of course the relationship between me, you, and the art I see online, because we get so much surrounded and flooded by AI work right now, and I hope that he explains this relationship way more.
I often hear that AI will remove the parts of our jobs that are not fun or unnecessary to the creative process.
What we just talked about earlier, right, with UV unwrapping and retopologizing. The first thing I said was literally, yeah, I don't like doing this. I could see that this is something that gets replaced pretty fast.
I think everybody can think of something in their creative process they would rather skip over if it were possible.
Right now, I'm still working on this animation project. I love doing animation, I love doing characters, and also what I found out, I really like doing more effects on top of the characters to enhance like the visual experience. This is really cool, but one thing I really don't like is, of course, doing backgrounds. And what do I have to do, and what do I have to force myself now is doing backgrounds. And of course, I was thinking, yeah, just put it into the AI, but then I thought, okay, this is not my work then anymore. And I want to be proud of myself that I did this. Even though I know that this is not the best background ever made, it has its flaws, like especially here. But I think for me, the decision was still better than using AI. For me, even though this is like super simple, I like this right now. And this is all of my own decisions. I learn of my mistakes. I grow during the process. Like for example, this whole short film will have over 3 minutes at the end. And that also means 3 minutes of backgrounds, 3 minutes of characters, 3 minutes of all of this stuff. And I'm learning for myself what is wrong, what does work for me. I did put quite a lot of experience from the shots I did earlier into it already. Okay, how to draw these bricks. What kind of technique do I use? Now I learned, for example, I go from really rough into more details. Usually when I draw like a house, I'm starting with a rectangle. Or if I want to make this walking zone, I'm starting also with just a little plane. And then I add these little bricks on top of it. And this is like a progress. AI just gets set with some different things, and they thought, okay, that worked in the past for don't know what. Although they don't think, that's the difference. They don't think, they just take. They're trying to find patterns that we already have in our mind because they are using stuff that worked in the past.
However, I think it's a mistake to presume that everybody sees fun the same way. This is my little Ouroboros diagram, and I would like to use this as a device to explain how I view the use of AI
So he's using the snake that is biting their own tail
as a self-defeating cycle.
This is also, yeah, with gameplay and level design, he goes into the video game industry as well.
In this diagram, our titular snake is consuming its own tail, eating everything up until it dies. The head represents the person in control of the AI, and each portion of the body represents a different career or job that this person may need to deal with in their creative pursuits. Now,
Okay, that's why he's also having all of these different jobs in it, not completely specific to one industry.
Head of the snake, let's say that somebody like me, a concept artist, is in control. To me, doing things like VFX simulations is neither fun nor artistic, and so I feed that job into an AI alongside whatever else I don't enjoy, whether it be level design, writing, or 3D modeling. To me, these things are not artistic. What is artistic and what is fun is what I do. But let's change things up.
But that's why you kind of change your own specialty. That's why you chose doing concept artists.
And say that a 3D modeler is in charge of our snake's head. Well, for a 3D modeler, VFX art, level design, and writing might also be totally AI worthy. After all, these things are not fun or artistic for them.
Yeah.
But do you know what may also not be fun for this person? That's right, concept art. Spin this snake as many times as you want, put a different person in control of its head, and you'll always find that they have different opinions on what deserves to be part of the art industry and what deserves to be relegated to a hobby.
Yeah, because art is like super specific, right? Not only what is art, but also the reception of it.
I think it verges on delusional to believe that AI tools will stop at cutting out the boring parts of our jobs, because everyone is doing a different job and everyone finds different things boring. So we must assume that most artists utilizing AI perceive themselves as the head of the snake. But how likely is this really? If you are using AI, are you really that guy? I think this mindset will really only protect those truly at the top of the industry and will not only progressively cut more and more artists of all types out of the equation, but will also seriously damage the reputations of those who mistakenly perceive themselves to be worthy of replacing everyone else.
This is always something you read all the time on LinkedIn, that AI is not threatening their job, it's threatening the job of others. At the end, there are even industry veterans with like 10, 15, even more years of experience who are struggling right now.
If you are a big enough artist, trying to be the head of the snake might be a genuine long-term strategy, as long of course as you're okay with pushing everybody else out. But for the rest of us, it is better not to engage in this cycle at all. I do not want to give any other artist a reason to replace me. I want them to see me as a collaborator, and by not engaging in the Ouroboros, I think I increase my odds of being seen favorably within the industry, and I keep my actual skill set clear and visible. I have seen multiple artists and art studios over the last few years begin to either openly or secretly use AI for their professional work. And I think this will likely prove to be a very short-lived sales pitch that will not sustain a studio or individual long-term. Most rates for artists are calculated based upon their experience and skill. As more years of experience accumulate, an artist can charge more, and this is generally what leads to pay differences between artists with 1 year of experience versus another with 10.
We had similar development in VFX. It's so funny that even VFX is considered as bad sometimes. Like, we had this big backlash between VFX in film. Some major movies who explicitly said that they didn't use VFX in the credits. Although all of this was a lie, because used VFX, like green screen is also VFX, all of this stuff. Here he says the same thing. They try to hide the use of AI in their work. And I know people that are doing this as well, like using AI to generate a fire or something and put this then into their VFX comp. With this, they kind of enhance the picture because they don't have to get like some templates that were pre-made and maybe doesn't fit into the picture. But on the other hand, they didn't also have the capacity or the money or the time to create like a CGI fire, for example.
AI seems to flatten this calculation though, as it is perceived by business leaders to decrease the disparity in skills between these two types of artists.
And that's also why often AI is considered as this thing that you're especially using in your concept phase, like in the early development phase, to pitch something to others and do it by yourself pretty easily. I had like one acquaintance who asked me 4 years ago to do some art for him. So I gave him his number. After that, the big ChatGPT rose and everything got bigger and bigger, and he wanted to make some t-shirts with some more Japanese style, anime style logos, and he never answered me anymore. 1 year later I talked to him again and he said AI was just so big and I can simply feed it with the stuff I want and it gives me everything way more faster. So even for stuff like that, you get so fast replaced.
The potential for experience to become far less valued in a world of AI art. This will not lead to the artists with low wages getting higher ones. I think quite the opposite is likely, as companies use AI and the help it provides to justify lowering wages and increasing the workload on the individual. In this scenario, those left are going to be like crabs in a bucket, having to compete for lower wages and more work produced with less artists. I do not want to engage in a race to the bottom.
But we don't only have this from AI. Do you remember these times of Fiverr when people just commissioned other artists for like $5 or something? But of course, this is now completely artificial. But that's like the difference. In the other time, you had almost every time real people who did this, but now it's so easy to just use the AI.
Let's also talk about how AI can affect our reputations and consequently our sales pitch. For the companies and individuals that use it openly, it decreases their value proposition as they implement tools that anyone can use. It prevents their employees from improving their practical skills. It decreases their reputation as craftsmen, which will consequently decrease the amount of money they can charge clients. And it may damage their public perception. For the companies and individuals that use it secretly, this can be extremely damaging to a company or individual's reputation, Undisclosed AI usage may lead to issues both with clients and consumers, and currently undecided lawsuits may be resolved in the future and make portions of work unusable. This is especially relevant as a lot of art can be made years in advance of the release of a product.
Another important thing here is all of this lawsuit between copyright. Like, I think I know that it was a German law that Munich, I think, who already said what is copyright worthy and what is not.
I believe in a world of AI art, we are likely to start seeing the final generational waves of talent entering the professional art space. As AI becomes more prevalent, institutional learning and teaching in general will become less appealing. After all, why would you train to be a full-time artist if there is no possibility of supporting yourself from it? Additionally, entry-level positions will begin to disappear.
Yeah.
AI is perceived as being able to replace low-level tasks, and young artists will naturally be the first to go.
And also, I feel like right now it's even stronger that you almost don't have a chance to really get into the industry unless you have a lot of luck or know someone who is in it and who stands in for you. I'm also struggling right now, so I can totally understand this. I can go into this from my perspective as well. One of my friends, she got really, really lucky because she sent away like 1 or 2 applications to someone she knows, and he reforwarded it. And since then, she's working with this company, and she's getting slowly into the industry, which is probably the way to go now. I tried to apply for different roles, and it's just such a big competition that you barely have a chance on, because so many people are applying for the same job. I even saw a lot of job searches where they had to close it after like 1 day or less than a day, and it's almost reminding me on the house market as well. If you're looking for an apartment, this is almost the same thing, that you can only apply for maybe 1 hour. People in charge already close it because they get so many requests for it.
Junior roles are the entry point for the majority of artists working professionally today. No new juniors means no new pathways to learn and upskill, and eventually no new seniors or art directors. In a best case scenario,
That's actually a point. And we see this already like in other fields. For example, in 2D animation in the anime industry. They are struggling to get good young animators. That's why they already have to rely on people outside of the world, like from all over the world, which is actually a pretty good decision. Leave your bubble at some point. And that is, in the anime industry, it's like super important to get more people from all over the world, like for example ENBM or some other people who are not Japanese, and bringing their expertise into it. And yeah, it's like super important to always have this cycle of the old veterans that are leaving the industry, but before they raise new veterans at some point. And it's like the little baton that you are giving to the next generation. And with AI, it's more like, okay, you're giving the baton to something that is not thinking, and it's not revolutionizing, because every generation has like their distinctive style, their distinctive choice, because someone is doing something else than everyone else, using the technology in a certain way. And that's why we have like this art style of certain people. We all see the art style of like for example in Aaron Blaze. Aaron Blaze just won with his Snow Beer, which is a distinctive art style that we all know from the 90s, late 80s, 90s, late 90s, early 2000s Disney. And it's still so important for the whole community that this movie just got an Emmy Award.
will have an increased skill deficit, and I think that we can already see this happening in the modern concept art industry. Today, the prevalence of 3D tools, specifically poorly utilized kit bashing techniques, has led to a generation of concept artists that struggle to sketch, paint, or produce original designs.
Yeah, that's why still in almost every art school or film school, I did a program in 3D, and it was super important for us to still be able to draw, because at the end we also made like our own 3D animated project, and for this we created our own characters, our own world. Did a lot of sketching, a lot of there and forth. We did a lot of exploration, doing all different kind of art styles and doing all of these different kind of character designs. And so it's still really important, even though if you're using 3D, to have like a basic fundamental understanding of craftsmanship.
This inability to produce original, custom work is the issue I most commonly deal with in my teaching, and is the most common reason I've heard for artists not being hired by art directors. If the overuse of kit bashing that still involves a lot of skill has led to such an undesirable outcome, I struggle to imagine what AI will do. To reiterate this issue of training, I think it's also important to acknowledge who AI tools generally appeal to. These are tools made specifically for non-artists to implement. These tools negate the artistic process, so will young artists actually want to learn them or see AI art as a valid career? Will they begin the long process of building their skills, taste, and creativity when the outcome and process is just prompting?
But I also saw a valid point here in another video, I think, and that said that AI is not only specifically made for non-artists to do the stuff they want to do, so there's like a democratization here. On the other hand, people who are watching AI stuff are probably not the people who recognize the difference between art and AI art. That's the people who are watching it. For these people is it that don't have like this high bar, that it's for them important that someone like an artist put their thinking, their ideas into their art.
As a young artist, I spent a lot of time watching behind the scenes videos of movies and games on YouTube. Seeing the art departments in these videos working together, collaborating, and making incredible art was a big part of what inspired me to be a concept artist today.
And also to improve. I always love to go on Sakura, but especially on this website we have a lot of production material as well. Like here we can see, okay, this is the layout for this particular shot for My Hero Academia. To see how it's made, how it's done is so cool when we now compare it to the final image, which is also directly here. There's of course one thing to see the end product, but it's also super important to see how it's made. AI cannot do this. AI only uses the end product and tries to replicate it as close as possible, but they don't get all of these other steps in it.
Can the same really be said for images like this? I do not think videos showing how to do a comfy UI workflow or prompt the right image into Midjourney will create the same sense of inspiration and spark that I once felt watching those behind the scenes videos. I do not think that anybody who aspires to truly be an artist and is passionate about it will actually pursue a career in art if this is the way they have to do it. So how will this affect someone like me who already has a professional art career? Well, beyond the moral obligation I feel to ensure that young artists receive similar opportunities to me, I can also see that long term it will be harder for me to find talented artists to hire for my own projects. Like many artists, I aspire to be a creative lead, whether that is on a film or game or some other project, and I will need talented people to help make my projects a reality. Losing that potential talent pool robs us of future colleagues and collaborators, and this seems like a massive shame to me. AI is being presented as excelling in two specific areas in entertainment art. Number one, speed of outcomes, and number two, sense of realism. Let's first discuss speed. To begin, I think it's valid to point out that more is not always more. An increase in quantity and choices is not always the most efficient path to success. Adding unnecessary outputs to a selection of work can make it far harder for clients to choose, and it actually decreases the efficacy of the project.
He's really talking about a professional standpoint here. On the other hand, we unfortunately see like the complete opposite, where more is more in the creation of social media content, in the creation of short form content. You get flooded by stuff like that. One big example I have in mind for that is like remix music, like video game remixes in a different music style, like lo-fi or synthwave. If you are able to pull out more faster, of course, you get more traction, more views at the end. And with the views, especially on YouTube, you get more your money, right? So that's why, for example, I have like a big problem because I'm working on my short film for 1.5 years. Others are just doing their AI shit while they can pull it out in, let's say, 5 hours. Every 5 days, they are releasing a new short film. Then they get the views still because people are watching it. The sad thing is that people are watching AI stuff and kind of like it. This is all AI generated, by the way. And you can see simply here, this is amazing, this is so good, etc. I'm shocked, outstanding, and this is so bad if you just look at it. Like here you can still see all of this bonkiness. This doesn't work as well. What doesn't make sense, all of them have different shirts on. The other thing here, look at this. Here are 3 Tsubasas. And here we have 2 Tsubasas doing the acrobatic stunts from the Tachibana twins. This is also Tsubasa, but with an Italian tweaker. What doesn't make sense? This is pretty bad. And people are watching it. It has more than 300,000 likes. I think that's already enough to say. And this is so unfortunate.
If you are making work professionally, you are being hired for your existing experience. You are hired to internally filter out the bad choices before you ever put pen to paper. Providing a targeted selection of work, in my experience, is far more beneficial. Most modern artists, at least those that I work with in concept art, are incredibly efficient and time conscious. And in fact, I am regularly asked to cut down the number of options I provide to a director rather than producing more. The current obsession with speed over everything else will only lead to higher and unnecessary expectations in the art industry. Again, this feels like it will be a race to the bottom as artists try to throw out as much work as possible rather than making considered choices. Good work takes time, not just because of the time it takes to draw something, but because of the time it takes to think about the most successful outcome that we can provide.
Nope.
Let's now discuss realism. Artists historically tend to love pursuing realism, and this is still the case today. The only difference is that now we often achieve this in the professional art world by using 3D and photobash. However, true photorealism is really quite hard to achieve, and it's quite the feat of skill and planning when an artist does make it work. It is important to note though that the majority of concept art is not indistinguishable from a photograph. We still know that it is a painting. I've started to see more and more artists using AI upres tools or AI photobash or AI 3D to increase the fidelity of their imagery for less overall effort, often without it being labeled as such. I would question what the end goal of this pursuit for perfection really is. Do we need every piece of concept art to look like a photograph and be devoid of the human touch? Does this usage of AI really add any great level of production value to a piece of work that could not have been achieved otherwise? In an industry with already high expectations, it seems unwise to push the envelope further using AI to produce essentially otherwise unachievable levels of realism. Looking at this incredible art, does any of this not feel realistic enough? Yes, there may be visible paint strokes or seams to some of the photobash, but all of these images, even with their variance in style and approach, look absolutely incredible and I would argue very realistic. What would feeding this through an AI program achieve? Would these paintings be any more valuable in a production if they look slightly more real? And what would actually change in the film or games pipeline that would drastically improve on what has been working consistently for the last 20 years? So artists should be prioritizing learning about staging, lighting, color theory, posing, and everything else that actually makes an image feel realistic. Highly photorealistic work has its place in concept art, but doesn't need to go further than where 3D and photobash can already get us, especially if it comes at the risk of using and paying for tools that may hurt the wider industry. Realism is about far more than just how photographic your image can be.
He again points it out that always hand craftsmanship and like the skill that you are developing with your journey, the skills that you are learning, you're thinking about it. Super essential for your art. You still need all of these resources, especially color theory is always an important point about how does colors are acting with each other.
The online media landscape matters a lot for artists, and I briefly want to discuss how I see the online relationships between artist and author and viewer changing over the next few years. AI has successfully flooded the zone, and it is now very hard to avoid it, whether it is on Instagram, Twitter, or any other online platform.
And I said it with like the example of this AI-generated music, for which I also saw a pretty good video.
In my eyes, this makes it ever more important to be a point of difference within the tsunami of random AI outcomes. Not only should we be building ourselves as human artists, but we should also be trying to avoid confusion. Implementing AI into your workflow, no matter how lightly, will leave you open to questions.
Just read this again. In my eyes, this makes it even more important to be a point of difference within the tsunami of random AI. Not only should we be building ourselves as a human artist, but we should also be trying to avoid confusion. Yeah, that's true.
To using it to generate a rock in the foreground, and you open up questions about how you achieve the look of the background or focal point. You will be throwing your whole body of work, at least in the eyes of the public I think, into doubt. Personally, I would rather avoid this confusion. It is much easier to answer no when someone asks me if I use AI, rather than having to provide an explanation for why the way that I use it is actually good.
That's why I also chose to go with this art style. Even though I'm not the best background artist, so that I don't have to explain to others why I did use backgrounds through AI if I have better ways, like for example asking someone else, which would be the best choice always. If you don't know something, ask someone who does. Yeah, still studying your basics, and this is really important to learn the hand craftsmanship of your work. And then, because all of these new AI artists don't know the basics, or at least most of them don't know. There are a few that I also know that they came from film schools, they learned the hand craftsmanship, but then they decided, okay, let's do AI this stuff. Connections are of great importance. Yeah, for sure. Connections to other people is like the basic right now. And I just pointed it out earlier. Like one of my best friends, she got the first job because of a connection. Because of she knew someone, she sent an application to him and he forwarded it to a company. Which is good, I don't want to blame her for that. But this is like how it works today.
Not using AI has no effect on my career right now, but using it can ruin my perception in the industry, with my followers and amongst my peers, and it is ultimately these groups of people that help me make my income day to day. So here is the bet that I am making. I am betting that my career is better off without AI tools than with. I'm betting other artists are less likely to replace me if I choose not to replace them. I'm betting I will have a stronger sales pitch to my clients as a bespoke concept artist rather than being an AI-enabled worker. I'm betting that there is value in continued artistic education, both for myself and for others.
I also think that if your clients trying to threat you with AI, like for example, they say, yeah, then we can simply replace you, then it's also not the right client, you know? I got a story from a colleague at one of my projects I'm working on, and she was working on a studio as a junior. She had some problems with all of these different tools that she had to learn in a really short period of time. And so she had a talk with the HR department. And the HR department at some point said, yeah, we want to have you at the company, but with only 1/3 or something of your income, of your wage. And then she said, yeah, but I don't have enough money then for my own life, like to pay my apartment, pay my food, everything. And then the HR woman apparently said, yeah, there are other people who would do it for this money, and we can easily replace you with that. That was at the point where she said, okay, I have to leave this company. Yeah, right. You're working on your own pace. You can just offer like your own value to it. And if they accept, then it's healthy, you know?
I'm betting that focusing on considered and educated art and design will serve me better than endless photographic churn. And I'm betting that the people watching this video, the people who follow me online, my colleagues and my employers would rather see real art created by me over images made by a tool. With all of that said, I want to reiterate something, that this is my bet and I am gambling. Anyone who speaks with authority about the future is probably lying. We are all simply making our best bets in an attempt to head towards our most ideal future. But we can try to influence our future in very small ways, and this is how I intend to play my hand and influence my little corner of the world as best as I can. First, I'm going to continue learning about these issues, staying up to date on AI company performances, and reading enough material to know the difference between concerning trends and marketing hype.
Yeah, this is also something that I'm doing as like on LinkedIn. I'm super interested in all of these AI developments just to see what they can do right now and what they still cannot do. I just showed this AI video earlier. There you can still see all of these flaws, and I still think that maybe in like 1 or 2 years it's getting even better. The best example is this Will Smith AI spaghetti eating video. 2 years ago, that looked like an abomination. Now it's looking solid to the normal eye. And I also think this has a lot to do with our own viewing experiences, like our own, how we are treating like also content day by day by just most of the time watching it on our little phone, on our little screen, and don't have all of this attention put into it anymore. And then we see this hyper-realistic AI video where we don't see any major flaws at the first view, but if we are going deeper into it, then we see all of these problems.
If you want to learn more about AI and its issues to better understand it, these videos and many more are linked below. 2. I will be continuing to educate and share to help others who want to improve. I love teaching, whether it's via private classes or community feedback sessions. I personally benefited immensely from this kind of stuff when I was a student. And I would never be where I am today without the advice of incredibly talented and generous professional artists. I've done my best to pay this back over the years, and I will be taking that one step further in 2026 by committing to a monthly portfolio review session in the Sketchpit Discord server, which will be linked in the description. I actually already had my first session in February, so if you need feedback, then once a month I will announce a date and time and do my best to give feedback to as many artists as possible.
That's nice, and that's also if he stays doing this for a longer period of time, and this also undermines everything that he said earlier as like his genuine thought. Super important, as we said, to help others make connections, because this is right now the only way to improve and to get into the industry.
Between work, my personal life, and everything else, I will also be trying my best to produce more educational material for this channel. Whether it's breakdowns of existing projects or tutorials, I'm committed to doing my best to help the aspiring artists out there. 3. I will be continuing to speak up publicly about AI. Whether I'm speaking at industry conferences or just getting the chance to discuss the issues with an industry leader, I will be continuing to push for true artistic processes in the professional art world. Whether you have the chance to get on stage or just chat to another artist at an event, make sure you know how to talk through the issues in a clear manner. Be willing to have an awkward conversation with somebody to explain your point of view, because we need as many people on our side as possible. 4. I'm going to keep making the best art that I can make. Art that inspires me, and hopefully art that inspires others. I joined this industry not just for the paycheck, but to make imagery that makes someone take that first step towards a career in the arts, just as so many artists did before me. Whether it's giant robots, space pirates, or whatever films and games I get hired onto, I'm endeavoring to create work that puts a smile on somebody's face. Please do not stop creating just because a tech company has beaten you down with relentless marketing and news articles about how they've superseded all artists. There is an audience out there who wants to see what you're doing, and by giving up or using less genuine...
There's this thing, we all are in the same earth, we have different views and different ways. Let's not forget our core values and the common things which interconnect everyone. With AI, the connections are being cut out as from the use case of replacing people, like isolation. Yeah, everyone has different views and different ways and also culture, you know? This is like also super important. We all grew up differently. When we are doing, let's say, a big project, all of this comes together. Everyone can bring in their own experience and make a product way more feelable, kind of like touchable, you know what I mean? AI doesn't have this background. AI just takes stuff. As I said, AI is the result of all of our habits right now. All of these flooded things. AI is flooding everything because of our own behavior, that we are just want to get more and more content way faster. I can now go into a capitalism critique and everything, but I think that's like too big. Maybe you get point what I would try to make. Our lives get so fast right now, and with AI, it also undermines that. We want more content. We want faster, nicer, better, everything. What we lose on this way is the humanity in it.
You are cheating that audience of something amazing. Whatever happens to this industry, I am not going to stop making cool stuff, but I certainly hope that by not stopping, I will prove the value of what I and others can bring to the table.
The unfortunate thing here is, I would say that I almost said like all of these same things already when I was talking to other people. Unfortunately, I feel like it's almost worthless now to like HR people because they are also so flooded and so toxicated with all of these AI answers, which are just replicating this same thing, and no one knows anymore what is actually real.
5. I am going to start labeling my work as no AI.
This was what I was saying earlier today. For my short film, I will write as a disclaimer, no AI is used. Point. Yeah. Now I think that maybe AI could just do the search thing, as it takes time to search stuff online and flood it with AI. But wait, it can be solved without any AI to literally building better search using tags, genre, multiple word search, and all that stuff, better categorization, and yeah, for sure. But on the other hand, it's like super comfortable to just search for something and then you get like an AI summary or like an AI thing that pops up for you. Already researching takes time and also learning with it. Like this one, maybe Arctic knows that, because this was like something I showed Arctic during the first streams he was here. I remember that because I'm a human and I know Arctic was here. We were talking about FX animation. I wanted to get more into FX animation. And what I did was I was looking through these resources. This is like a great book to get basic understandings of, like, for example, here's a smoke, how to make a smoke. Here. Water as well, how to animate water. Stuff like that. These are all resources. I use them. I don't want to replicate them. I'm using it for my own style. And what comes out is at the end something like that. That's like still the one thing we have, and it's cool. And it's also cool to improve. That's also the thing. If you want to do cool stuff, then you have like this intrinsic desire to get better, because this is something you really care for. And if you don't care for it, then you use AI, because AI doesn't care as well.
I know so many artists have already had no AI on their social media and portfolios for years now. I think it's time for many other professionals who have lagged behind to finally follow suit. For years, I felt it was almost insulting to have to label my work as not using AI. I felt that human art should be the default and AI outcomes should be the thing getting clearly labeled. However, social media platforms have been slow enough in fact that I now think the Overton window of perception has shifted. Now any image of high enough polish, however you want to define that, may be seen as AI by a member of the public. This distrust and suspicion does not help us, and I think we are far better off at this point labeling ourselves, since the wider internet refuses to label and manage AI. Finally, I am going to tell a better story than the AI companies.
Because at the end, it's pretty unfortunate that most people simply don't care about if it is AI or not. This is also a common thing that I heard quite a lot is, yeah, for them it's enough. I can get this. If you don't care for your audience, then that's fine. But that's like, why are you doing it? For me, this is completely against everything that makes myself human, because I do stuff that I want to do. And I want to show them to others because then I care. I want to make their lives better. I want to show what my things were in it and everything. If I don't care as the creator for something, then why should other people care?
AI has not replaced every artist, but the narrative that it will is what props up so much of the FOMO that pushes artists into feeling like they have no other choice but to use AI. Every day, enormous companies tell us stories about how replaceable we are. They tell us that this technology is inevitably going to become part of our lives, and they do all of this in an attempt to justify cutting a few dollars from their annual payroll. Artists need to actively start telling a different story. We need to explain that what we do takes time and passion and a level of consideration that AI-enabled workers are not even willing to try and replicate. We need to explain to people that the tools we choose to use and the way we do our work are an essential part of what makes us good at our jobs, and that we take pride in having the skill to be able to do it this way. We need to sell the idea that not only are we better off without these programs, but that our clients and our employers are as well. AI companies, business moguls, and depressed artists are not oracles. They do not know the future. They are simply self-invested in their own income and survival. And that is why they spend so much energy and time assuring us that their narrative will come true. So I encourage you to tell a better story, sell a preferable future, and hope that people will follow.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point here at the end. That these people are probably who want to sell you something because they are so desperate that they want to make money with it. It's like always the people who are be the loudest are the ones that try to convince themselves. They not only want to, they want to convince others, convince themselves that they are on the right spot, you know? This is a circle that they try to go around for themselves. Although we are right now in the same thing right now. Like, we are the people who say, yeah, everything will be fine without AI. I still think that major project AI doesn't have a place. And I still see it, a lot of companies are still looking for people. This is some really cool resource where we can see in the VFX animation and game industry which kind of jobs are open right now. And we see every day it gets filled with positions.
Sell a preferable future and hope that people will follow. Thank you so much for listening.
Really good video. Really, really good.